One of my favorite things about Demon Slayer is how the mangaka portrays her villains. It is clear that there is a fundamental thesis being put forth by the author. Demons aren't born evil, often their difficult and unfair lives that were filled with suffering turned them into the monsters they would eventually become. You can say that this is the case for demons like Kyogai and Rui. They were dealt a bad hand to begin with, and mix that with the misfortune that follows turning into a demon, and you get a sort of monster cocktail. And even then, both are monsters who in the end show glimpses of humanity, showing that that humanity was inside of them all along. It was just repressed due to difficult life circumstances. Shonen series in general are good at portraying villains in an empathetic way. They show us how they become the way they are, and furthermore, that it is possible for them to change, even if that change happens in their last moments. Just think about how Vegeta changed in Dragon Ball Z. Think about how Gaara changed in Naruto. Gaara stands out to me as one of the best examples of the villain to hero journey. He is the perfect character foil for Naruto. He had it even worse than Naruto growing up. Rather than being saved by someone like Iruka Sensei, the only person Gaara trusted, his uncle Yashimaru, told him he hated him and that he would never be loved by anyone before he tried to kill him on Gaara's father's orders. Gaara, not surprisingly, became the monster everyone expected him to be. Deprived of any love and companionship, he became a selfish monster. However, Naruto, understanding where he was coming from and how he could have ended up the same way if circumstances were different, helps Gaara overcome his tragic past. Then Gaara goes on to become the leader of his village, before Naruto even succeeds in becoming the leader of the Hidden Leaf village, and Gaara genuinely becomes one of the nicest and most selfless guys in the series. I'd say that Akaza, the third Demon Moon, is up there with Gaara as being one of the best written villains in anime. And in order to illustrate this, I will be looking at manga spoilers, so you've been warned. If you don't want to hear any manga spoilers, click off the video right now. Anyways, like Gaara, Akaza didn't just freely choose to be a villain. He just adapted to the circumstances around him because he had to in order to survive. The first thing Akaza does in the series is kill Rengoku, the Flame Pillar. Although he would have preferred if Rengoku turned into a demon, Rengoku refused, so he ended up dying from the wounds that Akaza gave him. At this point, Rengoku was a very likable character. Not only was he overpowered, which helps us like characters, he was also an amazing person. He is completely calm as he's dying. He tells Tanjiro not to worry about him dying, and that it is natural for a pillar to become the shield of his juniors. His last spoken words were that he truly believes in Tanjiro and his friends. Then he dies with a smile on his face. For as much as we have come to like Rengoku up to this point, we have come to hate Akaza because he killed such an amazing person and then fled like a coward before the sun came up. Our dislike for Akaza only grows as we go on to see how the death of Rengoku goes on to affect Rengoku's family, Tanjiro, and the other demon hunters. By the time Akaza shows up again and calls Tanjiro a weakling, before going on to fight him in Giyu, it's safe to say that the reader has been trained not to like him. He's one of the bad guys. He killed a good, likable person. He insults and wants to kill our lovable protagonist, and so on. And yet, after this battle, I thoroughly empathize with Akaza and don't actually hold on to any dislike for him. Not only that, but he goes on to become one of my favorite villains in all of anime. How is this complete 180 turnaround possible? Well, let's take a closer look at how the mangaka skillfully manages to pull this off by using some top tier writing witchcraft. The key to changing our perception about Akaza lies in his backstory. Behind every great villain, there is a great backstory which somehow explains their actions. Once again, Naruto comes to mind. Gaara had one, as did Madara, as did Pain. No matter how bad their actions seem at first, after we find out their backstory and motivations, we can start to see how they could come to the conclusion that they came to. As the battle between Akaza and Tanjiro and Giyu is approaching its conclusion, a ghost girl appears before Akaza. At this point, Tanjiro is out cold and Giyu is so tired and injured that it's a miracle he can still fight at all. A demon who, as Giyu points out, has no concept of fatigue or injury, is the clear favorite to win at this point. And yet, when victory is all but assured, this ghost girl shows up telling Akaza to let go. Akaza doesn't recognize her, but she tells him to come to the other side, aka join her in the afterlife. Akaza says he can't since he has to kill people. He has to become stronger. He has to kill anyone who gets in his way. The girl asks why he wants to be stronger, and he answers because he won't be able to bring it back if he doesn't get stronger. The it he is referring to is medicine for his father, and that cues the flashback, which is given a lot of space in the manga. Entire chapters are devoted to it. Thus, from the sheer amount of space given to the backstory, it is clear that the mangaka is serious about developing this character. So, back to the medicine. Akaza's dad was sick and needed expensive medicine. His mother is not in the picture. All Akaza has is his sick dad. So Akaza, being the caring son he was, decided that he would acquire the funds to pay for the medicine by any means necessary. He wants to become stronger so he can run away with stolen wallets, beat people who come back for revenge, and escape from the magistrate and his beatings. He eventually gets caught 3 times for pickpocketing and gets 3 pickpocketing tattoos on his arm. Not only is he visibly branded as a criminal for all to see at the age of 11, he is warned the next time his wrist will be cut off. Think about what you were doing at 11 years old. My biggest problem was probably forgetting to save Pokemon Crystal on my Game Boy Color. Akaza, on the other hand, is getting beaten up and punished regularly. He has to provide for his parent rather than the other way around. Then they threaten to cut off his hands. And anybody who tried to play Game Boy Color without using their hands knows that your hands are very important. Akaza isn't scared though, he just laughs. He tells them to go ahead and cut them off. He'll still have his feet to use for pickpocketing. He does not feel guilty or ashamed of his behavior at all. And why would he? He's following his moral compass. From his perspective, he's doing the right thing. His father's medicine is too expensive for him to get the money through any legal means. He's doing whatever he can do to save his dad. It just so happens that the only way to save his dad in this unfair world is to break the law. They give an 11-year-old Akaza 100 blows that would even make a large-sized man go numb. They are shocked that a kid could take so much damage, and they call him a demon child. But he's not a demon, he just has a really strong purpose in life that drives him. In other words, he has a powerful why in his life, to take care of his dad. And as Nietzsche said, he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. Viktor Frankl adds that people who see meaning in their lives are able to transform a personal tragedy into a triumph. This is how Kid Akaza is able to smile after receiving a punishment that would crush a large-sized man. As Akaza put it, "They may whip me and break my bones, but I can endure anything for you, Dad, even if it lasts hundreds of years." End quote. He would gladly die for his father. Can you imagine this kind of selflessness and drive coming from an 11-year-old? I don't know about you, but for me, this is the furthest you can get from being a villain. And then, after everything he went through for his dad hangs himself. The only person in his life, his reason for living, is suddenly gone. All Akaza is left with is his pain, physical and emotional. His father left him a letter where he explained that he wants his son to live an honest life. He wants Akaza, aka Hakuji, to turn over a new leaf. His father didn't want to live off of money that was stolen from others. His father apologizes for being a nuisance. He killed himself because he thought it would be the best thing for his son. But it's the absolute last thing that Akaza wanted. Akaza hugs his father's grave and contemplates how unfair being poor is and how unfair the world and its people are. His father was never a bother to him and never did anything wrong, so he wonders why he had to die. Akaza starts taking out his frustrations on the unfair people of the world, and he gets stronger. He is able to defeat 7 adults with his bare fists when he meets Keizo, who runs a martial arts dojo where he teaches a bare-fisted fighting style called Soryu. Keizo is a guy you can't help but love. He has this big smile on his face as he approaches Akaza and invites him to join his dojo, even though he can see from his tattoos that he's a banished criminal from Edo. Akaza attacks Keizo and Keizo whoops his butt by clobbering his face with many quick punches. Sensei Keizo doesn't even break a sweat in the process. So Keizo ends up taking the aimless criminal under his wing. Keep in mind that Akaza has nothing going for him at this point except being strong. He's got no purpose anymore and he's a branded criminal, so most people want nothing to do with him. But Keizo doesn't care. Keizo has no students because of jealous rival dojos, so he has to make his daily wages by doing some handyman work. He has a sick daughter and he has no one to watch her while he's away, since his wife killed herself. She couldn't handle the toll that taking care of a sick daughter who never seemed to get better took on her. Despite the fact that he's been labeled a criminal, Keizo trusts Akaza to watch over his daughter, the single most important thing in his life. Keizo is one of the first people who doesn't treat Akaza like a criminal, and that's all Akaza was looking for. Now that someone sees the value in him, he's more than happy to live up to that person's expectations. Akaza meets Keizo's daughter, who is called Koyuki. In her, he sees a second chance to make up for the fact that he couldn't save his sick father. He gladly commits himself 100% to healing Koyuki, and he doesn't need any convincing. In fact, it bothers him how sick people always apologize. He knows that they would do things for themselves if they could. They apologize for coughing, but it's not their fault. They want to breathe normally. Sick people are in the most pain, so Akaza really doesn't understand why they keep apologizing. This is how nice of a guy Akaza is. He never once complains about helping Koyuki or missing out on other things. He wants to be with her and to help her. As he explains, quote, "Koyuki had a really weak body. She had to be attended on throughout the night, and I had to change both the cloth and her forehead and her clothes. She had to drink water frequently, and whenever she went to the bathroom, I had to carry her." End quote. Evidently, it's a lot of work, and yet Akaza doesn't find it hard at all. He never thought of going to play, and he doesn't want to see fireworks until Koyuki is healthy enough so that they can see them together. Not only does Akaza want to contribute, he even says that training in the dojo and nursing Koyuki saved his heart. He spends 3 years like this, training and nursing. Eventually, his nursing pays off and Koyuki stops lying down all the time. She starts to be able to live normally. Then one day, Keizo sits Akaza down. He wants to give Akaza the dojo and his daughter's hand in marriage, even though he's a branded criminal. Akaza never imagined he would be loved by someone, or even have a future. Akaza finally sees that it might be possible for him to follow his father's dying wish. It might be possible for him to live the right way. He finally lets himself hope for a better life. He would give anything to protect Keizo and Koyuki. He is so grateful for everything they did for him. That's when it happens. Akaza goes to his father's grave to tell him about his upcoming marriage. When he comes back to the dojo, he finds out that the jealous rival dojo has poisoned their well because they couldn't beat Keizo or Akaza in a fair fight. Both Keizo and Koyuki are dead. After a tragic life of struggle and pain, Akaza had finally gotten to a good place. He finally let his guard down and allowed himself to hope for a good future. And then, it was all taken away from him in a moment. He blames himself for not being able to live up to his promise. He had promised to Koyuki that he would become stronger than anyone else and protect her for his entire life. However, just like with his dad, he couldn't save her and his promise was nothing but words. Knowing his story, I don't think you can blame Akaza for wanting revenge against the rival dojo, except beating them up is not enough for him. He goes and murders 67 swordsmen with his bare hands. The story seemed so absurd that it was regarded as a fictitious tale for 30 years before it was erased from the record. After he gets his revenge, he is walking around aimlessly again. He has lost his reason for living again. He has no why. He has nothing to protect anymore. This is when he runs into Muzan, who has heard that there's a demon in the area, but it's really just Akaza. Muzan goes on to turn Akaza into a demon and he loses his memories. He wants strength once again, even though there's nothing left for him to protect. He didn't want to live anymore, but Muzan turned him into a demon, who would go on to murder people pointlessly for over 100 years. So that's the backstory of Akaza. Interestingly enough, even though he lost his memories, he was the only demon who refused to kill or eat women. Even as a brainwashed demon, he still continued to hold on to some principles that he wouldn't break. Now, let's go back to the fight. It was heading towards a conclusion, but Koyuki's ghost helps Akaza realize that there is no longer a reason for him to keep fighting. His goal was to get stronger so he could protect his loved ones, but his loved ones are long dead, and he would have been dead by now too if he didn't turn into a demon. Thus, he has no more reasons to fight. He has no more reasons to get stronger. Tanjiro wakes up and starts rushing towards Akaza, but has no strength in his hand, so he drops his sword. It seems like it's over, but Akaza realizes that this whole time when he was killing others, he was actually trying to kill himself. He smiles at Tanjiro. Then he self-destructs, in a way where he wouldn't hurt the demon hunters. He decides to go to hell gracefully, and in between this world and the next, he sees his father, sensei, and lover again. He apologizes for what he became, but they all still love him. They haven't forsaken him, even if they can't take him to heaven. Koyuki once again gives him permission to let go. Akaza cries in her arms, and she welcomes her love home. He himself says he's home before he and Koyuki are consumed by the flames of hell. What a feels trip. I can't remember the last time a character's story affected me as much as Akaza's did. He truly is a product of an unfair world. Yet even in an unfair world, he never fully let go of his humanity, and in the end, he turned back into his old self. He tried to save his father's life, and he was punished for it. Then his dad killed himself. Then, after hitting rock bottom, he decided to give life another chance. He completely dedicated himself to helping Keizo and Koyuki. Things started looking good. He started to really believe that he could live a good life. And for the second time, it was all snatched away from him. He took revenge on the people who snatched it all from him, and then Muzan found him when he no longer cared about anything. He brainwashed him and turned him into a demon. Yet even though he lost his memories, he still refused to eat or kill women. He still held on to some moral principles. He was so strong that he couldn't even be beaten by our main characters. He had to choose to die. He died on his own terms, while he could have potentially went on and killed Giyu and Tanjiro. Yes, he killed Rengoku, but the whole time he was hoping not to kill him. He was trying to turn him into a demon, and at the time, Akaza didn't think that was a bad thing. In the end, he was an accidental villain. He was turned into a villain by the circumstances of his life, by the cruel world, and when he regained his memories, he defeated himself and gracefully went to hell. If he wasn't forced to become a criminal to save his father, and if his loved ones weren't poisoned, he would have lived the right kind of life, like his father wanted him to. For all these reasons, I empathize with Akaza. He did horrible things, especially as a demon, so he has to atone for those sins. However, you can see how he got there. The mangaka shows us how even a selfless, caring person can become a monster under the right, or should I say wrong, conditions. And it's completely believable. I think Akaza's loved ones were right not to forsake him. Yes, he made big mistakes, but Akaza isn't a bad guy at heart. In fact, his whole story illustrates how even good people can be made to do really bad things. This is why fiction, like Demon Slayer, is important. It makes us more empathetic. It helps us realize that we don't always know what people are going through. We can't judge a book by its cover, and we shouldn't assume that someone's a terrible person because they have pickpocketing tattoos. And as we become more empathetic, we realize that we all have to do our part to make this world a better place, so that there will be less cruelty in the world, and in turn, less monsters born from that cruelty. And that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know who your absolute favorite villain in anime is and why in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button to let me know. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you actually get notified when new videos drop. For more content, including crucial anime updates, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at AnimeUproar. A big thank you goes out to our patrons over on Patreon who help make videos like this one possible. I especially want to thank our Pro Hero tier patrons, the one and only Gilgamesh, Nothing But a Fan, Jason Wilson, King Zeldris, Angel Cruz, Steelers, and Pablo, and are the 1 tier patrons, the ones who stand atop all clans: Baby Ray, A17 FFDP, Steven Ingrata, Alola Anatem, Matty Mac 239, Makoto Kun, Keelan, and El Rico Dames. And the patrons who transcend greatness itself: Reagan Harrison and Lord Nuxanor, the chosen few who have been acknowledged by Lord Twigo himself. If you enjoy our work, you can support more of it by going over to patreon.com/AnimeUproar and becoming a patron today for as little as $1. If you do so, you'll get your name featured in future videos alongside these amazing people right here, and you'll even get access to our private patron-only Discord, so check out patreon.com/AnimeUproar, link in the description if you're interested. And until next time, see you, Space Cowboy.